It was supposed to be a weekend to clear my head. 3 hours north of Seattle, in the deep forests of Washington state, I rented a small cabin that used to belong to an old ranger. The listing said rustic, quiet, surrounded by nature. It sounded perfect for a man trying to forget the city and his own recent failures. The road leading there was a thin ribbon of asphalt swallowed by pine trees. By the time I arrived, the signal on my phone had died, and the air smelled of rain and resin. The cabin was small, built of rough logs, with a porch facing the endless forest. Behind it stretched miles of wilderness, mountains, rivers, and shadows. The first night was calm. I made a fire, cooked some canned soup, and read an old paperback I found in the drawer. Around midnight, I heard something outside, a low rustle, like a branch dragging across the wall. When I looked out, the forest was still. I told myself it was just the wind. But the wind doesn't whisper your name. I heard it, soft, stretched out through the trees, Eli. My name. I froze by the window, staring into the blackness. No light. No movement. Just the endless pines shifting in the breeze. After a minute, the whisper stopped. I closed the curtains and forced myself to laugh. Sleep deprivation, I muttered. You're hearing things. The second day I went hiking. The forest was breathtaking, towering pines, thick moss, and silence so deep it pressed on your ears. But the deeper I went, the more I noticed something odd. The trees were scarred. Long, deep marks on the trunks, as if something massive had clawed through the bark. Around noon I found a clearing filled with bones. Deer, mostly, maybe elk. Torn apart, half-buried, scattered around an old stone circle. The stones were carved with symbols I didn't recognize. I took a photo with my camera, then the battery died. Just like that. When I turned around to head back, I realized something that chilled me more than the cold wind. My footprints were gone. The trail behind me was smooth, untouched, as if I'd never walked there. That night, the forest came alive. The first sound was tapping on the window. Then, whispering again. Eli. I grabbed the flashlight, heart hammering, and shined it through the glass. A face stared back at me. Not human. It was made of bark and moss, with empty black sockets for eyes and antlers growing from its skull. I stumbled backward and fell. When I looked again, the window was empty, only my own. Trembling reflections stared back. I didn't sleep. By morning, I'd packed everything and decided to leave. But when I reached the road, it wasn't there. The forest had swallowed it. Every direction I walked, I ended up back at the same clearing with the stones and bones. That's when I heard the chanting. Low, guttural, coming from the trees. Shapes moved in. The shadows tall, thin, covered in bark. The air smelled of rot and soil. The leshy was real. I ran until my legs burned. The forest twisted around me like a living thing. I fell, rolled down a slope, and landed near a river. The sound of water gave me a moment of hope. I followed it downstream, hoping to find a road, a sign, anything. Instead, I found the ranger's station, or what was left of it. The roof was collapsed, the walls blackened by fire. Inside, the air was thick with the stench of decay. There were claw marks everywhere, deep gouges in the wood. And on one wall, written in something dark and sticky, were words I'll never forget. You walked too deep. The whisper came again, closer than ever. Eli. Something moved behind me, heavy, slow, breathing through wood and leaves. I turned just in time to see the antlers rise from the shadows. Its eyes glowed faintly green. The creature's limbs creaked like trees in a storm as it stepped toward me. I ran for the river, plunging into the freezing water. I let the current take me, scraping against rocks, branches tearing my clothes. Behind me, I heard it wait in his slow, deliberate steps crushing the stones beneath. Then silence. I don't remember how long I drifted. When I woke, it was dawn. I was lying on the muddy bank miles downstream. My clothes were shredded, my skin covered in scratches. My phone was gone. But there were footprints in the mud beside me, long, twisted, like the prints of roots dragging across the earth. I followed the river again, limping, until I saw a dirt road and an old pickup truck. The man who found me was a hunter. He said he'd been searching for a lost friend who'd gone missing last month in the same forest. When I told him what I'd seen, he looked at me with strange calm. Then he said, "Son, that's the Leshy's land. Once you hear him call your name, he won't stop till he takes you." That night, the hunter let me sleep in his cabin. I woke to scratching at the door. The smell of pine sap filled the room. I heard the whisper again right outside the window. The hunter grabbed his rifle, but before he reached the door, it burst open. The thing stepped in tall as the ceiling, dripping moss and shadows. Its face changed, it became mine. My own voice spoke back to me. "You walked too deep." The last thing I saw before the darkness swallowed me was the creature's wooden hand, closing around my throat. Its touch was ice and soil and centuries of hunger. Now, I'm not sure where I am. The trees never end. The air never moves. I think I'm still in the forest, part of it now. Sometimes, at night, I hear hikers calling each other's names. And I whisper back,